Odysseus escaped the Cyclops by calling himself nobody. Then he shouted his real name back to shore. Polyphemus used that name in a prayer to Poseidon, let Odysseus return late, alone, and broken. 12 ships still follow their captain. The curse has not destroyed anything yet, but now the sea knows exactly whom to follow. The next host is Aeolus, keeper of the winds. He is not another monster. He feeds the crews, listens to their story, and gives Odysseus something extraordinary: every dangerous wind tied inside a leather bag. Only the west wind remains free to carry them home. Aeolus has not given Odysseus a vague blessing. He has removed every bad direction from the weather. The voyage is reduced to one favorable wind and one captain strong enough to stay awake. That is the flaw hidden inside the gift. Odysseus trusts his own endurance more than he trusts the men beside him. The men see that secrecy and assume the worst. For 9 days, Odysseus steers without sleeping. On the 10th, Ithaca appears. The men can see fires burning along the shore. Then Odysseus falls asleep. His crew has watched him guard the bag without explaining it. They decide it must contain treasure he plans to keep. They open it. This failure belongs to both sides. Odysseus withholds the truth. His exhausted men choose accusation instead of waking him. The storm simply makes that broken trust visible. For one moment, Odysseus considers letting himself fall into the sea. Home was not a distant hope. He saw it. Losing an imagined future hurts. Watching the real shoreline vanish is something else. Aeolus refuses to help twice. A man followed by this much ruin, he fears, must be hated by the gods. The crews row onward and find a harbor enclosed by high cliffs. 11 captains enter. Odysseus alone keeps his ship near the mouth. The Laestrygonians attack from above. Boulders crush the trapped vessels. The harbor that promised safety becomes a sealed killing ground. Odysseus's caution saves his ship, but it also means he must watch the others die from outside the trap. There is no heroic rescue available. Entering the harbor would only change the number of wrecks from 11 to 12. Odysseus cuts his mooring line and escapes. 11 ships do not. The curse has not left Odysseus alone. Not yet. But 12 ships have become one, and the next refuge will cost something harder to count than ships. The last ship reaches Aea. Smoke rises beyond the trees, and half the crew goes to investigate under an officer named Eurylochus. They find a woman singing at a loom. Her name is Circe. She is an immortal daughter of Helios, the sun god, and she controls transformation. Circe welcomes the men to her table. Eurylochus stays outside. The others eat. With one touch of her wand, their bodies become swine, while their human minds remain trapped inside. That detail is the horror. Circe does not erase who they are. The men understand their humiliation, recognize one another, and remember the home they can no longer reach with hands or human voices. Eurylochus runs to the shore. Odysseus takes his sword and heads for the house alone. On the path, Hermes meets him in disguise. The god gives him a plant called moly, dark at the root and pale at the flower. It will block Circe's drug. The plan works. Odysseus drinks, Circe strikes, nothing happens. He draws his sword, but this victory does not end with a body on the floor. Circe recognizes him, swears a binding oath, and restores his companions. Odysseus refuses food until every transformed man stands before him again. Intelligence here is not a performance. It is a rescue completed before the hero allows himself comfort. The dangerous house becomes a refuge. There is food, warm water, music, beds. No one is trying to kill them, and no god commands them to remain. Days become months. Months become a year. This time, the crew remembers home before its captain does. Eurylochus is becoming the voice of sailors who have watched friends die and no longer trust intelligence to protect them from its owner. When he refuses to enter Circe's house, he reminds everyone of the Cyclops' cave. Odysseus nearly kills him before the crew intervenes. The fracture survives. Eurylochus will challenge the man who keeps saving them and keeps leading them where salvation is required. When the men finally ask to leave, Circe does not resist. She gives them directions. But the road home does not lead toward another island. To survive what comes next, Odysseus must sail beyond daylight and question a dead prophet. The crew escaped being turned into animals. Now their captain must lead them into the country of the dead. Before departure, a young sailor named Elpenor falls from Circe's roof and dies. No monster kills him. In the confusion, no one even notices he is missing. At the edge of the underworld, Odysseus performs the rites Circe described. The dead gather, drawn toward the blood that briefly gives them speech. The first familiar face is Elpenor. He asks for burial. Odysseus wants knowledge about his future, but the dead first demand that he repair a duty left behind. Then Tiresias approaches. He is the prophet they came to find. Tiresias says a return is still possible. One condition matters above all. On the island of Thrinacia, the crew must not touch the sacred cattle of Helios. If they obey, they may reach home together. If they kill the cattle, the ship and every companion will be lost. The warning is simple enough to remember. The journey will make it almost impossible to obey. Tiresias also tells Odysseus what waits after the voyage. Men are consuming his food and courting Penelope inside his own palace. Reaching Ithaca will not complete the return. He must enter carefully enough to discover who remained loyal. Odysseus then sees his mother, Antieclea. She was alive when he left for Troy. He did not know grief for her absent son had carried her into death. 3 times he tries to embrace her. 3 times his arms close on nothing. Other dead heroes bring other warnings. Agamemnon reached home and was murdered inside his own house. Achilles, celebrated above all warriors, says he would trade glory among the dead for the poorest life beneath the sun. Agamemnon's story makes home itself look dangerous. Yet Odysseus's mother says Penelope is still waiting and Telemachus is guarding his inheritance. The dead give him reasons for suspicion and reasons not to surrender to it. Achilles breaks a different illusion. At Troy, glory seemed valuable enough to purchase with a short life. Below the earth, the greatest warrior among the Greeks would rather be an unknown laborer who can still feel daylight. Ajax refuses to speak to Odysseus at all. Some wounds survive even death. The underworld does not hand Odysseus a map. It removes his excuses. The dead show fame without pleasure, anger without reconciliation, punishment without ending, and love without touch. Odysseus leaves knowing that survival is the prize that makes every other choice possible. He now knows why Poseidon hunts him. He knows danger may be waiting inside Ithaca. He knows the exact choice that will destroy his crew. The living return to Circe's island, bury Elpenor, and raise his oar above the grave. Then Circe describes the passage ahead. One voice will promise perfect knowledge. One monster will take 6 men, and one mouth in the sea can swallow the entire ship. The Sirens come first. Homer never tells us exactly what they look like. Ancient artists often gave them women's heads and birds' bodies. Their real danger is the promise in their song. They know everything that happened at Troy and everything happening across the world. Odysseus wants to hear them. That desire is not random curiosity. He has just returned from a place where the dead offered fragments of truth. The Sirens offer the fantasy that no fragment must remain missing. He seals his crew's ears with wax and orders them to tie him to the mast. However desperately he begs, they must keep rowing. The song promises answers. Odysseus screams to be released. His men pull the knots tighter. He does not defeat temptation by becoming stronger than it. He gives other people authority over him before the song begins. The captain survives because, for once, he makes his loss of control part of the plan. He survives because he planned for the person he would become under temptation. Next comes a choice with no clever escape. On one side, Charybdis opens like a mouth beneath the water and can consume the entire vessel. On the other, Scylla waits in the cliff with 6 long necks and 6 heads. Charybdis cannot be fought. 3 times a day, the sea collapses into her whirlpool and returns. A ship caught above it disappears with everyone aboard. Circe has already given the calculation: sail near Scylla, lose 6 men, and save the ship. Odysseus does not tell the crew. Perhaps the truth would cause panic, but the silence repeats the wind bag. The captain keeps necessary knowledge because he does not trust the crew to carry it. He puts on armor and watches the cliff, hoping he can fight what even a goddess told him cannot be fought. While every sailor stares at Charybdis, 6 heads strike from above. 6 men call their captain's name as the ship carries everyone else beyond reach. This is not a victory. It is survival purchased with people who were never allowed to vote on the price. Odysseus will later call this the most painful sight of the voyage. The men do not vanish anonymously. They call his name because he is the person they expect to save them. The crew has crossed the impossible strait. Ahead lies green land, rest, and grazing cattle. They have been warned twice not to touch them, but warnings are easiest to obey before hunger begins. The cattle belong to Helios. They do not reproduce, they do not die, their number never changes, which means the sun god can count every animal. These are not ordinary livestock. Their fixed number belongs to the same divine order as sunrise. Odysseus wants to stay at sea. Eurylochus argues that exhausted bodies need solid ground. The crew swears an oath: land, rest, eat the food aboard, and leave the herds untouched. Then a storm traps them for a month. Grain disappears. Wine runs out. Fishing fails. Odysseus goes inland to pray, and the gods place him into sleep. Eurylochus gathers the men. He weighs punishment promised in the future against starvation inside everybody around him. Their faith in warnings is running out with their food. Starvation now, he argues, is worse than possible punishment later. Kill the finest cattle. Promise Helios a temple if they reach Ithaca. At least choose a death that does not feel like waiting to disappear. The reasoning is wrong. The suffering behind it is real. The men understand the rule. They also know that gods can demand endurance without sharing hunger. Desperation makes a fatal bargain sound like the first decision still belonging to them. The men kill the cattle. Hides crawl after being removed. Meat bellows over the fire. Odysseus wakes to the smell of the broken oath. Helios demands justice from Zeus. If the loss goes unanswered, he will take his light into the underworld. Zeus protects an order larger than one hungry crew when he agrees to strike the ship. Zeus agrees that the ship will pay. For 6 days, the crew eats. On the 7th, the wind releases them. Only after Thrinacia vanishes behind the stern does the sky turn black. The thunderbolt destroys the last ship. Every companion dies. Odysseus lashes the mast and keel together. The current carries him back to Charybdis, where he clings to a fig tree until the wreckage rises again. Then he drops onto the timbers and paddles with his hands. Part I ended with 12 ships and a curse. Part Roman 2 ends with no ship, no crew, and no captain left to command. Poseidon made the sea hostile. Odysseus made costly choices. His men acted through mistrust, fear, exhaustion, and hunger. The Odyssey refuses to reduce all of that to one villain. Knowledge is not armor. Tiresias predicted this. Circe repeated it. The crew swore, yet tomorrow finally feels less real than the pain of today. But the final destruction follows a warning they heard, repeated, and chose to break. After 9 days alone, Odysseus washes onto Odyssey. He has survived monsters, prophecy, and the country of the dead. For the next 7 years, he will have no ship and no way home. The narrow sea is behind him. The last island is still ahead.